All right, I am back again with the three Nikon lenses this time. We got the early f3.5 right here, the pretty standard f2.5 right here, and then we have the f1.8 here. And this, of course, is the special edition 2005 one, which has a black aperture ring and is multi-coated, whereas the original is single-coated, to my understanding. So this center lens is the most common. These over here are not especially rare. They are a little bit cheaper. I really like this lens. I think it has a great rendering. You get a nice depth of field out of it, and it has pretty sharp results, especially for its age. It is a little quirky. You have this odd aperture ring on the front. It's unclicked, so you kind of have to get used to it. It's not like most other lenses I've used before, but I still kind of like it. Not perfect, but generally pretty good. You have the f2.5, which has kind of a similar aperture ring, but you can grip it around the edge, but you still kind of have to look at the front to get the reading. Again, not perfect, but when you get used to it, it's not bad, and it is a little bit easier to use than this one, in my opinion. There are versions of this sort of later flush barrel that are either chrome, or there's f3.5 versions, which generally seem to be chrome. They might be available in black, but I don't know for sure. And of course, this one, you have the 2005 version and the sort of vintage one, which is a lot more common and a lot cheaper than this one. I think all of them have their ups and downs. It's really hard to say one's better than the other, but I really like the rendering of this one. It has a much nicer depth of field than you might think, especially for a slower f3.5 lens. I went over this one a lot in the previous video, so you kind of know my opinions. I've talked about it some. I think it's a good lens. It's solid, but at the same time, it's not super remarkable, I guess. It's a good 35mm lens. If there's a 35mm lens you want to have in your system, this is probably it. And again, they're easy to come by, not that expensive. But I have definitely seen better 35mm lenses. The f1.8 I like. It's faster, of course, so you can use it in more low light and get a more dramatic depth of field. On the other hand, I don't find myself using it a ton. I usually keep it paired on the black SP, and sometimes I'm afraid to take it outside just because it is in really nice condition, and it's, the most expensive camera in my collection. So I do use it sparingly, and I get good results when I use it. But I am kind of afraid I might damage the camera or lens, so that does keep me from using it a little bit. One thing to note about this particular lens right here is this is an early one that's marked Made in Occupied Japan. You're not really going to be able to see it because it's kind of in black paint. But I've heard online that the early ones marked Made in Occupied Japan that have a minimum aperture of f16 have a different rendering than the later ones that have the same barrel design, but they're not marked Made in Occupied Japan. And I think they closed down to f22, if I remember correctly. Those apparently, for some reason, do not have quite the same rendering, or they're not quite as sharp. They're generally regarded as not being great lenses, and those are apparently more common than this style right here, so that is something to look out for. Again, I like all these lenses. If I had to choose one, I think I probably would go with the 35 f1.8, just because it has perfect ergonomics. It's perfectly compatible with modern lenses, the way it has the external aperture ring where you can see it and move it so easily. And of course, f1.8 is pretty fast for a 35, even by modern standards. You don't really see many 35s that are faster than f1.4, and even f1.4s aren't super common. I know most major manufacturers make them, but there's not huge varieties of them, and a lot of them are pretty new designs. So yeah, I think this one probably is my favorite, but I would say don't underestimate these older lenses, because I've gotten some really good renderings out of this. It's as sharp as you need it. I know some people will say, well, there's sharper lenses, and it's like, yeah, but that's always kind of the case. You can get a pretty nice depth of field out of it. The ergonomics are a little odd. Some people will be driven away by that. But if you can get over that, these are pretty good lenses, and they're pretty cheap. So I don't really have a grand conclusion here. That's just kind of my comparison to 35mm lenses. So I don't know. Leave a comment. Hope you enjoyed the images. Again, I just got one from each one of the lenses just to kind of give you a brief preview of what they're capable of. So enjoy that, and tune in next time. I might go over my entire collection. And I finally hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for that. Yeah, and that's all I got to say.